Yeah, now for something completely different. IPv6 for a change. You're probably all tired about hearing about IPv6, but well, maybe we come up with a few new ideas or a new story. Not necessarily a good story, but let's see. Maybe you can help us with that. So I'm Miriam, Kühne. I work for the NCC. Actually, Rani and I used to work together, which is kind of fun being here. Well, let's just dive into it. This is actually collaborative work with a number of our colleagues together at the NCC from various teams and departments. So I just wanted to mention them here because they cannot all be here. And some of you might have seen parts of this already at the White Meeting or at the Netnod meeting. So you can go back to your work now. I wanted to start this with kind of the good story and show you some statistics and some numbers, and also specifically about Sweden here, and then dive into the other section. So normally what happens is you get your cyberspace, you get it routed, and then people use it, or you use it, it kind of gets used. So let's go through these steps a little bit and see what we see from our perspective there. So recently we published an article on Ripe Labs. There's the URL on the bottom there, a bit long, but you can find it on the labs.ripe.net website, basically celebrating the 10,000th member or local internet registry that got their IPv6 resources, like IPv6 allocation or before or IPv6 assignments. And well, that's a good sign. 10,000 people in our service region or beyond have, and at least have the means to do something with IPv6. So if you see that blue line, which is the LARs that have IPv6 steadily increasing. The red line was also decreasing at the same rate as the blue one was increasing, basically, until recently. You see this little blip where it goes up again. That's basically when the community decided to remove the requirement from the last /8 policy that so there's no requirement anymore to have V6 in order to get your last /22. So while most people still, or most LARs still do it, since it's not a requirement anymore, there are of course also LARs that only come for IPv4 and they don't have a V6 allocation anymore. That explains that little increase in the red line again. I just wanted to mention that. Now let's look at. So I said, get your IPv6 addresses and then get it routed. So how does it look like? In this case, this shows IPv6 prefixes announced by ASs in a certain country. So the red line is Sweden. The yellow line is the rest of the world. So compared to the average, Sweden is actually doing quite well and kind of climbing up there on the chart. Now I'll dive into a little bit into the region here. The red line still is Sweden. It's still doing relatively well, certainly compared to other countries. And there's Norway that's way up there. So there's some work to do to reach that level. But still, over 50% of the AS is in Sweden announcing one or more IPv6 prefixes. So that's pretty good compared to others. So that's the routing part. Now let's see if the addresses are actually used. Well, we probably heard about this. We started this a few years ago. It's kind of a rating system for the local internet registries for the NCC members, where we measure the use of IPv6. So we assign 1 star if you have an IPv6 allocation, and you can earn 3 more stars if you're announcing it, if there's about 6 object in the database, and if you have reverse DNS set up. And we're publishing all this data on the website so LARs can find themselves there, and it actually works pretty well. It's kind of a peer pressure system where people want to be up on the list and they want to be listed there. There's the URL. You can see if you're on there. And this is a bit, you don't have to understand all this. I just wanted to illustrate. On the right-hand side is Sweden, on the left is our service region, so all the LARs in the service region. So Sweden, again, is doing a little better than everyone else, and than the average. Almost 40% of the LARs here in the country don't just have V6 addresses sitting there on the shelf, but they're at least doing something with it, like announcing it or having a reverse DNS set up. So they've kind of done their homework. Still doesn't mean they're making use of it or providing it to their customers. And there's a different story. So this is just one side of the story, really. But it's getting there. And so people have asked us, well, that's all nice, this is all like administrative stuff and, doing your homework, setting up reverse DNS, and it still doesn't mean it's actually used. So we looked at actual deployment of the v6 addresses that we're handing out. And so we started developing this fifth star, which measures usability. It's a bit more complex because you have to make a distinction there between content providers and access providers. And so we started measuring these two kind of types of providers. And so for content providers, you either have to have a certain amount of content available over IPv6 on your servers. And for access providers, you have a certain number of customers have to be able to use IPv6, kind of access your network of IPv6. And we're using the APNIC Google Ad measurements for that. And so for the last few years, we actually increased that threshold. And our community is telling us, yeah, keep increasing, keep doubling it every year. We should really get to 100% pretty much. Well, not quite, but so we're at 16% now. And you can see there at the bottom is the situation in Sweden. So it's, I think, 8% for content and 7% for access. I mean, there's some overlap, obviously. The average for all countries is like 5.6. So again, Sweden is a little better than average. And you can actually go to that Ripeness website that I had on the previous slide earlier on. And we list all the organizations that fall in these categories. So you can see if your organization, your company is listed there. And if you think you should be, because you're reaching that threshold, let us know, and then we'll see if we measured something wrong or why that is. And finally, I also wanted to put that in. That's the measurements that APNIC is doing, where they measure capability of the customers or clients coming to these Google ads that they place on the net. And you can see on the left-hand side the kind of the top countries in Europe. Norway again is up there, Finland, Sweden, not so much, 4.77% capable v6 users in the country. But you can go to the APNIC website and see some more statistics there and look at the methodology and how they've done that. But I just wanted to throw that in here to, add to the picture. Now, well, this is all nice, to look at these numbers. So what's still missing, or what's been going wrong? And so we discovered that it seems to be a backward trend as well. That people get their address space, they route it, and then they switch it off again. They stop announcing their prefix. So why is that? So last year we looked at some of our internal data, and we discovered that 462 some LIRs have stopped announcing the IPv6 prefixes. And so we were really curious to find out why that is. We thought it was quite a substantial number to find out why they did that. So we were thinking, we don't want to be the v6 police, and we don't want to go after people like banging on their heads, switch on v6, but we still wanted to find out what the reasons were. So we set up a survey and sent it out to all these contacts and contacts we have in these LIRs. And within a couple of weeks, we got almost 70 responses, and also we got a lot of direct emails sent to us as in response to that survey. And I just want to walk you quickly through the results that we've seen, and that's basically the come to the title of my talk. And just to give you an indication where these LIRs were or are that switch off IPv6 in which countries, this really doesn't show us much. I mean, it basically shows us that it's all over the place. There's not one country sticking out. The ones that do stick out there are mostly those that also have the most LIRs. So it's kind of natural that they also have the highest number in this graph. So don't read too much into this. Right, so what did we ask? We actually asked, the first question was, are you actually aware that you switched IPv6 off? And most people were, but some people were also surprised to hear that. I'll come back to that later. And so we asked further, like, what was the purpose of your announcement? So why did you announce it? And the bulk of the people said, oh, we were just testing. We just kind of see where everything works, and then we switch it off again. Some people had it in production, so it was a bit surprising that they switched it off and they hadn't noticed. And some people didn't know why it was on. Maybe, I don't know, some of their colleagues had it switched on. At least the people that we talked to didn't know. And then we further asked what the experiences were that they made during while they had it still announced. Most people luckily said, well, they had no problems. Everything worked fine. Oh, still switch it off. We come back to that, why they did that. But there were some people who also had issues with various aspects of their operations, like hardware, software, and firewall issues, and some security issues, and some customer complaints. I don't know what that means. So we dug a little deeper, and some people gave us details about these questions. And they said, well, a lot of people really said it was only a test. We were just kind of checking, and one person said that one customer had asked for it, but then they hadn't really finished their test scenario, and so it was all a bit vague. But I was curious to see also that people still have problems with certain hardware, software. They needed to reconfigure their firewall. Some documentation wasn't ready. So that kind of reminded me of the early RIPE meetings when we started the IPv6 working group. A lot of the time was spent in exchanging information about, I'm using this DNS server, but it still doesn't quite work with v6, so I've been using a different version that works with that server. And apparently that's still not solved. So we don't do that in the v6 working group anymore, because that's kind of 15 years ago, I think, or whenever we done that, and we thought that wasn't necessary. But maybe it still is. Maybe there's a need to share that information among the community if people facing these problems. And it doesn't sound like it's only people that use outdated equipment. So I think there's still a lot of new equipment out there that doesn't quite work yet. Right, what else did we hear? What we hear more often is actually that, well, the technical stuff is not so complicated. It's not rocket science. If you prepare well, it's not, things don't really break. But the technical staff are quite happy switching it on and having it run and providing services. But other parts of the companies, like I suppose management and sales, and I don't know, they weren't supportive of it. So they're always asking, like, so what's the demand? What's customer demand? What's our gain? And so they weren't getting the support. And some people, mostly those who contacted us directly, said that they had problems in their specific country, that v6 wasn't supported there. And there's not much we can do specifically apart from maybe talking to the government, but that's a bit of a sad story. And then there were also cases where the main engineer actually had died in this case. When a person had died or left, so which also we hear more often that it's like one or two passionate people in a company that are enthusiastic about v6 and they want to drive it, or they basically just turn it on without telling anyone. But not everybody has these people. Or what if they're left? So is it still dependent on these individuals to provide v6 services, or to deploy v6? Right. We further asked then. So now, okay, if you didn't have a lot of problems during the while we had v6 switched on, why did you disable the announcement? Why did you turn it off again? And again, most people said, yeah, well, it was just a test, so we had no intention of actually keeping it on. And again, there were people gave other reasons. Some companies were just closed, bankruptcy or other reasons. And again, no customer demand. That also, came back kind of repeatedly. Change of ISP, we also heard that, for instance, that the upstream, their new upstream, doesn't provide v6. Well, there are other ISPs, I guess. And here there's some details again, again, no interest from customers, which kind of made me think, is this really, this is certainly not the main motivator to switch on v6, because customers don't really care, as long as they're can watch kittens on the net. Then if they come over v4 or v6, it doesn't really matter to them. So I don't think that will be the main driver for deploying v6. Again, this is a bit repetitive. You're just testing, see if it works, if you just want to get ready, then we switch it off again. And again, some Yeah, some infrastructure changes. That was also a bit curious. People said that they changed data centers or they used a different router, and then it kind of basically fell off the radar, so they hadn't noticed that it wasn't working anymore. And some people, fair enough, they moved to a different v6 range. This was also interesting. One person said that they were in a huge DDoS attacks all the time, like while they had v6 switched on. So I don't know if you heard about something like that. And yeah, some old equipment doesn't work well. So yeah, I think most of this already said that. Oh yeah, the last one, I keep mentioning this, that they hadn't noticed that it stopped. So maybe are there better monitoring tools needed, or are you aware of any that people could use? That you're using maybe that would be helpful. And of course, we also had to ask, did you also switch off before at the same time you switched off v6? Did you also not notice that? But now, obviously, most people had not switched that off, and those that did were probably those where the companies are closed or went bankrupt or for other reasons. So that was certainly a different story there. And then finally, we wanted to know if they have any plans after we now contacted them and we spoke to them. Do they have any plans to switch it back on again? And well, a big bulk of those people said yes. In a few months or weeks, we are switching it back on. Luckily, nobody said never or like in 2 years. But there was a whole, the top bar there of people that said, oh, we don't really know, which was a bit sad. And this is what people also said, as I mentioned earlier, some people said, oh, sorry, I hadn't noticed, yeah, sorry, it's fixed again. Some people said, yeah, no, we don't really need it, we'll give the resources back. That also happens. Some people said, yeah, well, customer demand again, I mentioned that. And also they were kind of pointing to their upstream provider that they don't support v6, so, and then they couldn't switch it on yet. Right, so that was kind of the survey, and we were wondering what we could do, and that's also a bit more of a question for you here. What is it we can do, or you as a community, or we as the registry? We are providing a lot of training on v6. We have documentation on the website. People, how to set up an addressing plan, the best current practices. We also have documentations now for like v6 for help desks, v6 for requirements for buying new equipment. These web documents, they might be helpful for people to use. And we also started to discuss a bit more with governments, but also with kind of management, trying to reach to the management level of these companies that apparently don't support their technicians to deploy v6. But if you have any other ideas, suggestions, anything you think we can do to help, let us know. So in summary, I just wanted to kind of summarize the main points here on the last slide. It was nice to see that people actually appreciated us caring, for why that happened, and they weren't upset. And we contacted them and said, well, who are you, worrying about our networking setup, whatever. So they were quite appreciative of us asking. And secondly, there still seem to be some real issues with hardware, software, upstreams, and so forth. Which again, as I said earlier, maybe there's still a need for the community at RIPE or smaller events to share this information. Lack of customer demand, yeah, over and over again. Again, is this really the motivator for v6? Probably not. And yes, monitoring tools seem to be missing, or at least those people that we talked to weren't aware of that, so they basically just fell off the radar. I think that's it. Are there any questions or any comments? I'd be happy to. That's probably way faster than you wanted me to talk, but I wanted to leave some time also for bright ideas you might have on how to solve this.
Ron.
Hi. So did you also ask the alliers for what they're doing to combat IPv4 exhaustion in their own networks instead of IPv6, since they're turning it off?
Yeah, that's a good question. We didn't ask them in this particular survey. We didn't ask them about that, no. Most people still have before, or at least the larger organizations, or they come to us for the last little bit. But no, that's a good point. Maybe we need to combine those two questions. Yeah.
the back, I think it's more on.
This is more of a comment than a question, but I mean, we changed our Edge router, I think around October, and this is a brand new router, top of the line. We really struggled to bring up again IPv6. Took us a couple of weeks. The problem was that, I mean, even in the 2015, brand new router, it had to go through a lot of hoops and stuff, and actually. The problem was you had to turn on a feature in IPv6 BGP to tell the router that this is IPv6. It didn't assume automatically that when you're setting up IPv6 BGP has to be IPv6. But there are stuff like it's going on a steal in 2016, and a lot of vendors I think they don't even care.
Did you talk to your vendor?
Well, we tried, but you know how these guys are.
Is this a vendor that other people could also talk to, maybe?
Well, share.
Yes.
There's one.
And just a comment from me. I mean, apart from the naming and shaming, actually sharing that type of information and how you get around those things or what you need to do, I guess, could be a good role as well for the IPv6 to document and to list those things.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. That's what I wanted to ask. Do you think the IPv6 should provide this kind of platform where you can, I don't know, I haven't thought about what the mechanisms would be, either during a web meeting or on a website or like a blog or something, and we can make it easier for you guys to to find the information and to collect it and to contribute this kind of information. There's probably a lot of information out there, but it's all over the place. And I mean, Aaron has a pretty good V6 wiki as well. But yeah, I see some people nodding there, so maybe there is a need for that.
Yes, I can come with a suggestion myself. I always thought that the IPv6, you don't have to be the experts of all of these things yourselves, but to actually source the experts from the community is a good thing. These things, I mean, there's some great best current practice documents as well that the IPv6 has helped with. But the other thing is also maybe sharing, that a lot of, you do IPv6 trainings, but there are a lot of other organisations as well that do training courses. Even be, providing a list of all those that do that in your country, things like that, could potentially be helpful.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
This microphone is not great, but
I can hear.
Yeah, in the UK, there's a guy called Norman Collier who does this. He's a comedian and he does this thing where his microphone isn't working. So apologies if I sound like Norman Collier. My name's Mike Hughes. I work for Limelight Networks. We're a senior. The big thing I see in this list here, thing that troubles me is there's no customer demand for IPv6. Should customers have to demand IPv6? When I send the parcel somewhere, as long as it gets there in a reasonable amount of time, I don't care how it got there. I don't care if it went in a truck. I don't care if it went in a plane. I don't care if it went on a canal barge or a rickshaw. As long as it gets there in the amount of time I expect it to get there. I don't care whether my packet goes over IPv4 or IPv6, as long as it works and it comes back in the reasonable amount of time. And that needs to be the philosophy that everybody adopts, is that V6 is standard, and if the endpoints can use it, they use it. It shouldn't be, a customer has to come and ask us for it. And that's a fundamental paradigm shift that and I'm sorry this is turning into a comment rather than a question, and I really apologise. A fundamental paradigm shift in people's businesses, and if they're not getting this, how are they expecting to have a business in a few years if IPv6 is not just what you do? Because it's just access to the internet at the end of the day.
I think that's the main, the few years. How many is that, and what's the business horizon for a company and for management, So this is apparently it's still an investment now, and so when am I going to get this back? And that seems to be the main problem, and that's where this customer demand keeps coming back.
Whereas it needs to actually be, yeah, it's a long-term investment thing, isn't it? Yeah, and it needs to be actually, it's like building roads. I'm sorry, but yeah, if you're running a network, you're like building roads because you are an infrastructure. Yeah, if you're doing apps and a bit of digital and whatever, yeah, I can just go and stick it in the cloud and use AWS, and that's fine. And if AWS doesn't work, I can move it and put it somewhere else. And you're not an infrastructure, and you don't care about those things, and your investment horizon is much, much shorter. If you're in this room and you're doing networks, you are making long-term investments, and if you are not building your business that way, you are building your business wrong.
So I'll go talk to your business people in the companies and give them that speech. Mike, maybe you should go on a tour.
On the same topic, I'm concerned about one of your slides where I read that there's a business risk of bankruptcy if I deploy IPv6. That's kind of scary. But anyway, just joking. To follow up the thought, we need to have some way of communicating with business people. I think 2 meetings ago we had a roundtable about why IPv6 is not happening, and everyone was kind of, yeah, we can do it, but no one wants it. And the way I reason with most of my customers is that, well, you either start playing with it now and integrate it into every project as a small cost, or a few years from now, Paul and Mem and a few others around here will have a consultancy company charging you $500 per hour to solve your crisis because you're not connected to the internet anymore. It's either low cost now or a very high cost in panic fashion. And we will have private Lyriads, by the way. On a good note, I work with IP telephony, and there's actually one case where we have SIP soft phones running on cell phones, where the carrier has enabled IPv6 and have a carrier-grade NAT now on IPv4, which adds complexity and adds latency, and we don't want latency in real-time audio. So IPv6 is actually running much, much better for us in that case. That's with telephony and real-time media and WebRTC, the cool new dude, there's actually a business case for running over IPv6 without that kind of messy infrastructure that's turning up on IPv4.
That's a good point.
It's Netnod. I think that going back to the first comment about you have to have these funky commands to get IPv6 running in the first place, I think that we're bad at writing RFPs because we only have a vague tick box to support IPv6, and then they can say yes, but we don't ask, does your monitoring and management system support IPv6? So, as you said, someone didn't notice that IPv6 was gone. So I think that when we do an RFP, we have to be more precise that we need to have everything supporting IPv6, not just the routing or whatever it is. So we have to be better how it sounds too.
But that's interesting you said that. I mentioned this one right document that supports these RFPs and make sure all your equipment does IPv6. I can't remember the number right now because it has changed. It's on the right document store on the right page. But maybe we need to have a look if these tools or these systems are also part of the document and otherwise added.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Oh.
Hi, I think hasn't the IPv6 organization failed when vendors even today says that this is an IP device, but it doesn't have IPv6. The support for IP should be mandatory, that you're not an IP device if you're not IPv6 enabled. I mean, customers or service providers buy equipment and they realize, IPv6 is process switch, the other is hardware switch. So I mean, and it's still an IP device. It shouldn't be called an IP device if it's not that IPv6. And I think it's a failure from the organization when in the RFC definitions of IP devices.
thanks for all these great comments and suggestions. I hope I remember them all and bring them back to the office.
Sorry. Yeah, there is an RFC from 2012, RFC 6540, that says exactly this, but there is no enforcement. We don't have any IP police to make sure that this is followed. It would be sometimes beneficial, but that's not the way it works. So the best way to get this deployed is if everybody in this room never again buy equipment that doesn't do this. You are the customers, you have the power, vote with your wallet.
Okay. Well, on that note, I think we'll thank Miriam for her presentation.